This is KHQ Nonstop Local at 11.
The flames may be out, but the road to recovery has just begun. 2 people are now in the hospital, one of them fighting for their life following a fire in Spokane Valley. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm John Webb. Claire has the night off. The fire broke out around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Firefighters rushed to North Mayhew Street, where they found 2 buildings on fire. They say the fire started in a shed in the backyard, then spread to the neighbor's shop. Those neighbors called 911. The man and women who owned the shed were both burned, while the woman only suffered minor injuries. The man had severe burns on his leg and is listed in critical condition tonight. The shed where the fire started is a total loss, and Spokane Valley fire crews are now investigating to see what started the fire. In a developing story tonight, a drug dealer is headed to prison for killing his own daughter with fentanyl. According to our partners at the Spokesman Review, 32-year-old Frank Marsuik has now pleaded guilty, admitting that his 17-month-old daughter, Serenity, got into his fentanyl stash and overdosed almost a year ago. The judge has now sentenced him to 3.5 years with another 3.5 years on probation once he gets out. After Serenity's death, the toddler's grandmother developed a nonprofit called Family Over Fentanyl that aims to spread awareness and education so no other family has to deal with this. She works to reach people through social media, flyers, and someday presentations at local schools and events. For more information, just head to the story on our website. That's nonstoplocal.com. Out of our North Idaho newsroom tonight, a Spokane man is behind bars and hundreds of fentanyl pills are off the streets. Lewiston police say they pulled over 31-year-old Jesse Brebner, which is when he gave them a fake name. Officers did some digging and found out that Brebner had a warrant out of Washington for assault and controlled substance charges. Police searched his vehicle and say they found 500 fentanyl pills as well as meth, marijuana, and over $3,000 in cash. His passenger, 40-year-old Charles Walters, was also arrested for drug possession with intent to deliver. Tonight, Idaho State Police are investigating a potential DUI crash that sent 2 to the hospital yesterday afternoon. A Mazda pickup collided with a Mercedes at the intersection of Idaho Street and 19th in Post Falls. The truck flipped over onto the driver's side, pinning a 32-year-old man inside. He had to be extricated from the car and rushed to the hospital. The driver of the Mercedes was also transported to a local hospital. The crash blocked Idaho Street for 2 hours. ISP telling us tonight that alcohol may have been a factor. And tonight, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is seeking the public's help in finding a missing endangered person. Kaylee Freeman was last seen in Hayden in July of this year. Freeman is 25 years old, 5'10", 140 pounds with blonde hair and blue eyes. As you can see on your screen, she has tattoos on her left hand and her thigh as well. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Freeman, you're asked to contact the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Tonight, as families celebrate Thanksgiving around the region, authorities are continuing their investigation in the quadruple homicide in Moscow. No new information was released today, and police have not identified a potential suspect. Investigators are still trying to find the knife that was used. So far, over 100 pieces of evidence has been seized by police. Over 4,000 photos have been captured of the scene, and over 1,000 tips have been investigated and processed thoroughly. Governor Brad Little, a former vandal, has allocated $1 million in resources for this investigation. With limited information, the public on edge, and now day 11, ISP explaining why this case is moving so slow.
In law enforcement, we believe we owe this to the surviving families to get this right. And so we're not willing to sacrifice speed for quality.
And authorities asking the public for any information that may be useful in this investigation. Also, if you have surveillance video, you're asked to submit that even if you don't think it shows anything significant. Everything helps. And as investigators continue this investigation, the public is stepping up to the plate. Today, residents dropping off food, baked goods, and letters of support. Moscow police telling us today that they are humbled by the continued outpouring of support. Back on campus, the U of I has counseling services available for all students, staff, and faculty. You can call the Testing and Counseling Center to set up an appointment. The campus has also hired extra security for students who wish to return after break. Those who don't want to come back to Moscow have been offered remote learning. Students should have received an email about this. And next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, the University of Idaho will be holding a vigil to honor the memory of Ethan, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee. They're tentatively saying it'll be on the administration lawn, but if the weather changes, we'll of course let you know on nonstoplocal.com. Coming up this weekend, a new mental health crisis hotline is launching in Washington State to specifically help Native and Indigenous people. The Washington State Department of Health says when you dial 988, if you press 4, it'll take you to the Native and Strong Crisis Lifeline. It'll have an all-Native team of counselors to help Indigenous people. The phone line will only be available to people calling from within Washington State. Right now, snow has hit our region and Lookout Pass as well. 16 inches at the summit and 9 at the base. They were closed today, but the lifts will be open and running tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Ashley, great skiing weather, but not so much great driving weather.
You got it right, John. For sure. We are looking at our next weather system that's going to bring us some wintry conditions along those mountain passes. That includes the Cascades and over towards Lookout Pass, with that next weather system looking to arrive as early as tomorrow. So stay tuned for my full forecast. We'll have a full breakdown on that. But let's get to right now. And this is actually our main headline for tonight, is some patchy, dense fog for much of the region. We are looking at many areas less than a mile of visibility. Now, for those of you that are looking to head out, maybe do some Black Friday shopping, it's not just any fog. Again, patchy, dense, freezing fog. That's right. This is where we sit in Spokane, roughly at around 30 degrees. Doesn't feel like it, though. Feels like it's 22 degrees. So again, for those of you looking to head outdoors, not only really pack your patience and slow down for those foggy conditions, but also bundle up. It's a cold one out there, not just in Spokane, but also across the region. Again, freezing temperatures, upper 20s, but some widespread 30s across the area. And with that next weather system arriving, there is the potential for a change in temperature. So stay tuned for that and more, again, in my full forecast. But let's take it right back over to John at the desk.
All right, Ashley, thank you. Pretty hazy, but something that is clear. It's Apple Cup week. You don't have to say much more than that. Dennis Patchen's here as we inch closer to kickoff. Dennis?
You know what? Now that we've all served the Thanksgiving meal and we put it away for leftovers in a couple of days, we can focus on a feast of football Saturday in Pullman as they will play host to the Apple Cup. And while the attention is on the rivalry between the Cougars and the Huskies, head coach Jake Dickert wanted to make sure it doesn't get lost that 13 Cougars will play their final game in Pullman on Senior Day. And for a first-year head coach, Dickert says this senior class has been important for what he's trying to do, and maybe more important than any senior class he's been around.
There's a lot of playmakers in this group, right? And a lot of guys that have really given a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to our program. And to send them off on a high note is going to be really important, and I know it means a lot to that locker room. But the trust that they have shown in me and in our program, I'll never forget this group of guys.
Now, the Cougars will be at home, and they're coming off a win a year ago in Seattle. The Washington Huskies have the better record coming into this year's game this season, and they certainly have history on their side. Before last year's loss, the Huskies had beaten the Cougars 7 straight times and had dominated this series with 74 wins in the 113 previous meetings. But the Huskies say none of that, not a single inch, has anything to do with it, according to Dogs tight end Devin Culp, who played at Gonzaga Prep. He says the focus right now is on making big plays and making them in the biggest game of the year.
You know, we have a lot of big goals for our team in mind, and we want to go achieve a Pac-12 championship and go win a big-time bowl game. And so those are the things that we usually try to point our focus towards. But this isn't it's the Apple Cup. I mean, everyone cares. It's going to be an emotional game. People are going to be flying around, hitting hard. So I'm excited for it.
That's right. It's Apple Cup. Late kickoff means a long day for players waiting around and a cool night for fans who will be in the stands watching this one in Pullman. But this game should be a lot of fun. Coming up, Zags still on the court tonight in Portland. We'll show you how they're doing in the final day, or the first day, I should say, of the Nike PK85 tournament. We'll also hear from the Vandals about their playoff game coming up on Saturday. John?
All right, go Vandals. Thanks, Dennis. This Thanksgiving, the Salvation Army Spokane hosted a free Thanksgiving meal to those in need. Ava Wainhouse was there earlier today, meeting folks of all ages. Ava?
This has been a tradition since 1891. That's when the Salvation Army came to Spokane. They've been doing some sort of Thanksgiving tradition every single year, whether it be a hot meal or a food box. And this year, people of all ages came together to share a warm meal on this Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Robin and Dawn have enjoyed Thanksgiving with the Salvation Army in Spokane for a few years now.
You get to see people you only get to see once a year.
Joining the community for a warm meal.
Tomorrow we start bell ringing. It helps raise money for the Salvation Army to help them run the shelters that they have.
People of all ages came together today to fit the pieces of the puzzle that makes an event like this go round.
Making everyone happy.
For Grace and Emma, sisters only 2 years apart, 9 and 7 years old. This was their first time volunteering on Thanksgiving.
I'm putting whipped cream on, and then I put the marshmallows on.
In total, around 300 meals were served today, for those in need to those who simply needed someone to share a meal with. The Salvation Army and volunteers as young as 7 were there.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
From Nonstop Local and the Salvation Army, happy Thanksgiving.
All right, that was Ava Wainhouse reporting for us. And the Salvation Army aren't the only folks giving back this Thanksgiving. Today, Longhorn Barbecue in Spokane dropped off Thanksgiving meals to a single Spokane mom with hungry kids, as well as 30 homeless teenagers. How sweet. Still to come tonight at 11 o'clock, a survivor in the Virginia Walmart shooting speaks out after the gunman held a gun to her head, the haunting memory she now lives with. What would you name a goldfish the size of a 10-year-old? You won't believe what they named this one, coming up in your Mad Minute. But first, Blake, Ashley's back with your full weather forecast. That's next. Pretty hazy out there. Welcome back. Tonight, we're learning more about a deadly mass shooting in Virginia where a gunman opened fire in a Walmart. Instead of celebrating Thanksgiving dinner, 6 families are planning funerals after a disgruntled employee walked into the store break room and started shooting. Police identified the shooter as 31-year-old Andre Bing, who had worked at the store since 2010. Bing later died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Tonight, we're hearing from one of the survivors of that shooting. Jessie Wilzeski says she was in the break room when Bing opened fire and took cover under the table. She says that he then put the gun to her head before letting her go.
I slid out from out underneath of the table, and I'm shaking, and I probably looked like a chihuahua at that point, and he just had the gun up to my forehead, and this is really hard. He told me to go home, and he took the gun away from my forehead, and he was aiming it at the ceiling, and he said, "Jesse, go home."
Wow, how frightening. Today, nearly 100 people gathered outside the store to mourn and pray as FBI agents and police gathered evidence to try and find a motive for the shooter. Don't go anywhere. Sports is next. It's our Mad Minute for the night. In the next 60 seconds, I'll tell you the craziest stories you've heard all day. So let's put a Mad Minute on the clock and go. A man in Virginia is now thanking his friends for pressuring him into buying a first ever Powerball ticket after he won $150,000. Peer pressure isn't always good, but it's effective. Zookeepers in Sweden are on the lookout for 2 birds that escaped, including a giant owl. Despite being a 9-foot tall bird of prey, he's really friendly. Speaking of giant animals, a fisher in France cast his line into a carp fishery and reeled in a 67-pound goldfish. The locals lovingly call the fish the carrot. A Florida couple who are both competitive eaters both broke Guinness World Records, one for speed eating hot dogs, the other for burritos. I can't imagine how much their kids eat. A library in Texas just found something unexpected in their Dropbox, a Beatles cassette tape that had been checked out 44 years ago. Imagine there's no late fees. It's too hard, isn't it? And a man in Florida who was running for police at 100 miles per hour was at least courteous enough to yell, "I'm sorry," as he darted between vehicles across the highway despite playing Frogger on the freeway. He was fined and later arrested. 6 seconds left, Claire. As always, you can read extended versions of all your Mad Minute stories right now on our website. That's nonstoplocal.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you to everyone who shared pictures of their delicious food and, of course, the messes in the kitchen afterwards. And thank you for spending your evening with us as well. Ashley, what'd you have for Thanksgiving tonight? Did your kitchen look anything like that?
It definitely did not. You know what? I had some pie that they brought over at the station. That was delicious. And I had a great Thanksgiving. Anytime I spend it with you, John Webb, it's a beautiful day. And even with our viewers watching at home, thanks so much for watching. Hey, tonight, let's make sure that we're staying nice and warm and bundled up, because take a look at those overnight lows, 20s and 30s across the region, with 26 degrees forecasted out in Spokane. Foggy conditions are going to prevail, so we want to make sure that we're driving. If those of you are driving for that Black Friday, drive for those foggy conditions. Now tomorrow, daytime highs are going to be in the 30s and 40s, even some 50-degree temperatures. And for our extended planning forecast, for that 7-day planning forecast, that is, we are looking at that wintry mix, mostly rain for tomorrow, Friday. Mountain snow is looking to receive some moderate to heavy snow this upcoming weekend, with those temperatures dropping down heading into next week. John?
Looking pretty cold temperatures, Ashley. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that 24-degree mark.
You're going to need that turtleneck, John.
We're going skiing next weekend. Are you ready for that?
Oh, yes. I have my little snow bunny outfit. So you and me, John, we are ready for those slopes, okay?
Well, you went to Bozeman last week, so you're ready for anything. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us here tonight at 11 o'clock. We hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time.